let's talk about another aspect of our insecurity, the aspect of kidnapping. I'm sure you're aware that this last Christmas, a lot of people did not travel home like they normally would for the simple reason that they did not believe that they would arrive safely at their destinations for reasons of, well, should I say for obvious reasons. So how much are we achieving in that area? And what more do we need to do to ensure that Nigerians can actually move around? I mean, when I was younger, people would leave Lagos at 7 p.m. and go to party in Ijebu, go to party in Ibadan, or go for things. But nowadays, those things are few and far between. People don't have the courage to do those things anymore.
First and foremost, you look at the mutually reinforcing, illicit flow of weapons and illicit flow of funds, which have compounded, they are catalysts that have compounded our security, calculations. Two, you look for the influence of drugs, narcotics in the society today. And three, lack of governance. So you cannot say you are going to fight this kidnapping without the appropriate infrastructure to do it. First and foremost, proliferation of small arms and light weapons. If you do not check it, because those are the instruments of terror, those are the instruments they use in the kidnapping. If you do not look at it carefully and come out with appropriate, actions, as recommended, Nigeria is a member of the United Nations. The United Nations have clear prescriptions to how to tackle this proliferation of small arms and light weapons. And I know that even the ECOWAS, where we're a member, they also have such an instrument where you have what they say National Commission, that will arrest these small arms and light weapons. A land that has just been established, but where it is located is another issue. Then number two, the influence of drugs on our youth, if on anybody. Once you are on drugs, you do not care about another person. So the rifle becomes a guitar. And that is the instrument of terrorism. Now you talk of lack of governance, failure of governance, that lead to so many ungoverned places where these people hold sway. If the primary purpose of government in these states is security and welfare of the citizenry, and the absence of it is a sure catalyst to these issues. Now you also talk of response to this kidnapping and all that. And we'll come again to the issue of appropriate weapons and equipment. In Uromi, for instance, when the armed robbers came, they first of all went to the police to send a signal. They attacked the police and killed some policemen.
God.
What does that tell you? We are here for business. And they went into the banks. Look, we have a lot of things that we must do.
My apologies. Let me see if we can reach Pastor Ladi Thompson now. He's been on the wings for a while. So, Pastor Thompson, you've definitely been listening, almost with bated breath, if I can dare say, to be a part of this conversation. Sincere apologies that we had to keep you waiting. We needed to dust out some things. I don't even know where to begin to question you about some of these things, but perhaps to at least even start with the fact that the police is supposed to be the number one. You've heard General speak to some of these issues. You have any reactions to begin with?
I don't think, first of all, it's a pleasure to see you and my sister there. Thank God for the good job you guys are doing. But having said that, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Nigerian police force. We have a big problem in Nigeria. It's a systemic problem. The policemen are out there doing their best, but don't forget that there's a maxim that says that everything rises and falls with leadership. What Nigeria has is a systemic problem. We have at least 5 existential threats that are facing us right now. And like you said, there is a degree of architecture of thought that Nigeria has to rise to if we intend to survive in the months and the years ahead. As long as we don't pay attention to these things, we would be like a people who are engaging in wishful thinking. We can speak, whatever rhetoric we like, but people are dying. I mean, for instance, I was just listening to a lot of the reports on the Kaduna State governor. As the Kaduna State governor was addressing the press yesterday, the day he was addressing the press, in Angwako alone, 4 people were picked up and abducted that morning, kidnapped. Patience David, 25 years old, Happy David, 18 years old, Loving David, 12 years old, Piskin David, 4 months old. In Angwan Makeri, former Iri district in Kaduna, now Kufana, about 11 people were picked just that yesterday. The statistics is terrible. As I listened to the governor speaking yesterday, I was wondering whether we are talking about my country where my people are dying. I was wondering whether we are still talking about the same country where we are rating 3rd on the Global Terrorism Index, where the statistics on the bloodshed that is going on a daily basis, I was wondering whether we are talking about the same country. Now, let me say this quickly because I don't want us to. When you deal with, let me just take one of the existential threats that we are facing, that of the terrorism, global terrorism. If you don't find the right response to it, it will destroy you. One of the things that we do about terrorism also is the fact that we understand that it is a hydra. It is highly intelligent. It is well researched. It destroys its host from within. If you ask me, for instance, when I was listening to the press conference that was going on in Kaduna, I realized that something is going on here that is not quite, that has not yet been put into right perspective. Why am I asking this? That even all the media houses and the questions that were being asked, as I was listening for question by question, if you ask me, we need to be a lot more thorough. Why am I saying this? 11:15 a.m. 2012, there was a tweet that was released. On that tweet, whoever released that tweet wrote and said, "We will write this for all to read. Anyone, soldier or not," that's referring to the Nigerian army now, "that kills Fulani takes a loan repayment one day, no matter how long it will take." On the 3rd of November 2016, there was another report that a serving governor from within Nigeria left his state, left the borders of our country, went into neighboring countries, Niger, Cameroon, Chad, Mali, Senegal, and took money to go and appease terrorists who were taking our people out. Then I remember again that on 2019, I think that was 2019, on NTA live program, I believe all these things are still available for anybody to see. There was a serving governor who was making comments saying something to the effect that those who are calling for anyone to come and intervene in Nigeria, it says we are waiting for them to come and intervene. They will go away. They will go back in body bags. Now, whether you like it or not, when you are dealing with global terrorism, one of the first things that any country does is to sit down and to put in 4 basic things that I have said for 10, 15 years. People are dying. I wonder what we are going to say to the David family this morning, whose children who have been abducted and kidnapped in that same Kaduna state. You see, until a country begins to put value to the life of its citizen, I don't see how that country plans to survive the kind of problems that we are facing.
Okay, well, Pastor Thompson, my
yes.
apologies. Let's talk some solutions. Okay. This conversation is about rethinking security strategies. And some of these things that you say, of course, those who have been following you know that you've been saying the same thing, and it would seem like attention just needs to be given more and more to this. So the question then is, What do we do now? You heard the general talk about need to strengthen interagency collaboration, to foster interagency collaboration. The challenge of vulnerability of those who give intelligence information to security agencies. How well protected are they? He asked that question. So in terms of rethinking our security strategies, what are the gaps that you think we need to urgently fill?
Well, again, I don't think you want to build a house by starting from the windows or the roof. So when you have the kind of challenge that we have, first of all, you know that a medical doctor who does not take time to diagnose a patient properly has no business prescribing drugs for that patient. Now, if we look at this from that perspective in Nigeria, I don't know what you want us to start saying again. This thing is a global phenomenon. The statistics in Nigeria tells you that we are about the third worst case in the world with this sickness and this disease. Are we forgetting that apart from this problem, we also have 4 other at least existential threats? So what am I trying to point out to you right now is this, is that there's no need to reinvent the wheel, and I'm not going to repeat the things I've said on channels television for more than 10, 15 years. I've said the same thing over and over again. We have watched this thing progress from trickles of blood into torrents. We are at the 3rd stage and moving into the final stage. At the first stage, when these things happen, people start by reacting with indignation. At the 2nd stage, they become numb. By the 3rd stage, they begin to accommodate. At the final stage, there will be capitulation. We are already moving to the final stage, and we are still talking like this when we know that we are dealing with hybrid threats. We are dealing with asymmetrical warfare. We know that this is not something that the police force is trained for. We know that this thing infiltrates countries from inside. It infiltrates high places. It is a war of narratives. We know all these things, and we have not gathered the best minds in Nigeria to sit down and solve this issue. Friend, let me say something to us here. You want to know the solution? I will tell you that at this point in time, we have exhausted a lot of the tactical things that we could easily have done. At this point in time right now, everything rises and falls with leadership.
Okay, just one second. Well, on that, let me see if General Sekagwe agrees with you. First of all, he says it's a global phenomenon, and that we may have, I don't want to say run out of luck, but that's the way it sounded.
Well, we don't need any exaggeration to say terrorism is a global phenomenon. And looking at it critically, you find out that the influence of Al-Qaeda, the influence of ISIS, have further, strengthened the resolve of the local terrorism that we have here. It's a global phenomenon, but when you are tackling it, you must think globally and act locally. There is a difference. And what do I mean by think globally and act locally? For instance, the governor of Kaduna, when he was talking about this attitude, he talked about the religion and religiosity of the Boko Haram and all that. And what intrigued me was when he said, because there is a passion. There is no serious nation that will be thinking of a passion when you are talking of the pernicious effect of the act. So passion should not come in for counter-terrorism or counter-insurgency. We have to look at it as a national problem. Number 2, I do not believe that we have run out of ideas. It's just called for taking the appropriate steps. Number 1, even if we are overwhelmed, there is nothing that stops us from looking for international support. Now, I keep talking about the underlying factors. I talk about illicit financing and the flow of finance to these terrorists. How do we as a nation tackle it? I know we have the FATF, the financial action actions. Then we also have even the terrorism prevention out of 2014 in Nigeria. The problem we have is the ability to come up, like we were discussing, to say this is the problem.
Okay.
Now the government says a few days ago that they have about 96 individuals or companies that are supporting terrorism financially. They also name about 22 borrowed the change. The question is, what action has been taken against these people?
If you were to recommend, what action should be taken?
Get them arrested and prosecute them.
Okay.
It serves as a deterrent to others.
Okay. Well, Pastor Thompson, so this is where we are now, and General, of course, doesn't believe that we have run out of ideas. And you say it rises and falls on leadership. Leadership is a very dynamic topic on its own. So I'm wondering, when we talk about leadership now, at what level of leadership and at what spheres of leadership?
That's interesting. I think we've reached a point in the country, and like he rightly said, I want to commend him. He did point that this is a global problem. It has a local fix. Now, there's different levels of leadership we can look at. Let's first go back to Kaduna State. Last Thursday in Kaduna State, the governor called religious leaders, both Christians and Muslims, and let them know that they've done all they can do, and it's time for prayers. And the government, I believe, was ready to sponsor, prayers to tackle this problem. Now, if what the governor was doing was to build consensus by calling the religious leaders to come together, then maybe it's a good move in the right direction. However, we cannot be prescribing aspirin for cancer. And I don't think that where this problem has reached now in Nigeria is any longer something that is going to be discussed over a cup of tea. We have allowed this thing to progress. It's like a sickness that medical doctors could diagnose, they could foretell, they could see. We have allowed it to get to a point. Right now, if you ask me, there's going to be a change of baton of leadership in Nigeria coming up soon. The only window that is ready for us right now is to up the ante by making sure that whoever collects the baton of leadership must not only have the courage, must have the savvy, must have the understanding to be able to tackle this problem, or we can, kiss this nation, our beloved nation, goodbye. What am I saying is this. We need more leaders in politics. We don't need any more politicians in leadership. To solve this problem, you must look beyond the next election. Politicians look for the next election. Leaders look into the generations to come. Politicians don't really have principles. They will say anything, they will do anything, they will hold court and make deals, they will sacrifice a lot. Okay. But real leaders think into generations, realizing what the effect will be on the nation. So I think as a nation right now, we need to look into the issue of leadership, since everything rises and falls with leadership. And I'm going to say to you that since independence, we have had what we call a fractured leadership selection challenge. And what has happened is that Nigeria was put together in a way by engineers, social engineers who understood us, who believe that we are emotive, we are intuitive, we are unscientific and incapable of critical thought. Now, because they believe this about us, they set us a puzzle, and this is how many years after independence? And we still haven't cracked the code as to how to elect the very best in Nigeria. We're not talking about a compromise.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you short. And I also apologize that we could not take you from the beginning of the program because we had some technical issues. Pastor Ladi Thompson, a security consultant who joined us via Zoom from Vancouver, and we also had General Cecil Isekaigbe, also a security expert who joined us in our studio in Lagos. Sorry, we couldn't take more about this topic, but this is by far not the end of this conversation.
Absolutely.
It is still ongoing because we are faced with security issues every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Please join us.